Daytona International Speedway, February 1976. The three fastest qualifiers for the Daytona 500 just got thrown out. All three of them gone. The pole sitter, the outside front row, the second row inside, gone. And the man who inherited the pole was a corn and bean farmer from Keokuk, Iowa, who had never won a NASCAR race in his life. What happened in that garage in the days before the 1976 Daytona 500 is one of the most detailed, documented, and specific cheating scandals in NASCAR history. Every quote survives, every speed number is on record, every fine amount was published, and the line that came out of it is one of the most honest things any driver has ever said about professional motorsport. This is the full story. The 1976 season opened the way every Daytona 500 opens, the biggest event on the NASCAR calendar, the race where the fastest teams bring their best equipment and qualifying speeds tell you immediately who built something special over the winter. The most of the field was qualifying in the 178 to 179 miles per hour range. That was expected. That was where the fast teams lived in 1976. Then A.J. Foyt posted 187.447. Darrell Waltrip posted 186.617. Dave Marcis posted a lap that was roughly 3 miles per hour faster than Ramos Stott, the next car behind him. The field had gone from 178 to 187 in the space of 3 qualifiers. Somebody at NASCAR looked at those numbers and then looked at something else, the lap-by-lap breakdown. Foyt's fastest qualifying lap was 2.118 miles per hour faster than his first. Waltrip's was 2.444 miles per hour faster than his first. Ramos Stott's second lap was 0.37 miles per hour faster. Dave Marcis's second lap was 0.317 miles per hour quicker. Everyone else got slightly faster as their tires warmed up. Foyt and Waltrip got dramatically faster on a single lap. That is not tire warm-up. That is something else. The post-qualifying inspection found it, hidden inside chassis tubes on both Foyt's number 28 Haas Ellington Chevrolet and Waltrip's number 88 Dygaard Racing Gatorade Chevrolet. Bottles of nitrous oxide connected by tubes running into the intake manifold. A controlled hit of nitrous on the hot lap, one lap of dramatically elevated horsepower, then back to normal. Marcis, in the number 71 Harry Hyde K&K Insurance Dodge Charger, had a different trick. 3/4 of his radiator was blocked to reduce aerodynamic drag. Harry Hyde, his crew chief, insisted NASCAR had approved it during the pre-qualifying inspection. He was not wrong that they had seen it. He was wrong that seeing it meant approving it. Big Bill France was in the garage. Bill France Sr. had handed the keys to NASCAR over to his son Bill France Jr. in 1972. He was 66 years old in February 1976. He was retired. He was also 6'5", and when he walked into a garage, the garage knew he was there. Waltrip's car went into the inspection station. Crew Chief Mario Rossi was informed by Big Bill France himself that the car would be cut into tiny little pieces until the nitrous hardware was found. Rossi confessed, showed them where the bottle was, hidden in a chassis tube. Foyt had a different meeting. He was furious. An eyewitness reporter standing in the garage described watching Foyt argue with Bill France Jr., the NASCAR president, with enough intensity that there were moments where it looked like a punch might be thrown. Then, Big Bill walked out of the inspection station. He headed straight for Foyt. Before France got to Foyt, he walked past the 2 reporters standing in the garage. He turned to them and said, "Wallace told me to make sure these sons of bitches are legal by the time he gets here, and I'm gonna go do that." Alabama Governor George Wallace was the Grand Marshal for the race that year. Big Bill intended to have this resolved before the governor arrived. France walked into the inspection station. The door closed. Within minutes, it opened. France came out with his arm around Foyt's shoulders, walking him out with Foyt saying, yes, sir, Mr. France." A.J. Foyt, who had terrified competitors and officials across every form of American motorsport for 2 decades, came out of that room saying, "Yes, sir." The rulings were issued. All three qualifying times disqualified. Foyt and Waltrip fined $1,000 each. $1,000 at the Daytona 500. Haas Ellington, Foyt's car owner, explained the nitrous bottles with one of the great quotes in NASCAR history. Quote, "Golly, I clean forgot about that. We put those in there 3 years ago for Trenton." He forgot, for 3 years, about the illegal nitrous bottles in the car. Foyt denied any knowledge of the nitrous system to the day he died. He maintained he did not know what was in Ellington's car. Wallace did not deny it. He had been caught with the hardware in the car and the confession from his crew chief. Instead, he said something that became the most quoted line about cheating in NASCAR history. Quote, "If you don't cheat, you look like an idiot. If you do it and don't get caught, you look like a hero. If you do it and get caught, you look like a dope. Put me in the category where I belong." The man standing on the pole for the Daytona 500 was Ramo Stott, a part-time NASCAR competitor who ran corn and bean fields in Keokuk, Iowa. He had qualified fourth. The 3 men ahead of him were gone. Stott had never won a NASCAR race. This was the only pole position of his career. Stott told reporters, "I've probably had more publicity out of this than anything else that's ever happened to me. My wife Judy keeps a scrapbook of my career, and she's running all around the place buying up papers for the press clippings." Ramo Stott started on the pole for the Daytona 500 because the 3 men who were actually faster got caught cheating. He finished 26th after losing an engine. He never led a lap. There is a detail buried in the Wikipedia account of the race that has never been fully explained. Quote, "One driver later admitted that he deliberately qualified slower to let the times of the offending teams stick out." The citation goes to a 1976 source. The driver is unnamed, but the implication is specific. Somebody in the 1976 Daytona 500 field sandbagged their qualifying lap to get Foyt and Waltrip caught. That story has never been fully told. Despite starting 31st after the disqualification, Foyt led more than 60 laps before his engine failed. The car was fast enough to lead without the nitrous, which raises its own question. The race itself became one of the most famous in Daytona history. Richard Petty and David Pearson tangled on the final lap. Both cars crashed. Both ended up in the infield grass short of the finish line. Petty stalled. Pearson kept his engine running by keeping the clutch in through the impact. He limped across the finish line at 20 miles per hour, while Petty sat dead in the grass. 18.3 million people watched it on television. The cheating scandal was the opening act of the greatest Daytona 500 finish ever run. It is the part nobody talks about. Darrell Waltrip, years later on the Dale Jr. Download podcast, reframed the entire episode with 4 words. Quote, "We were not rule breakers, we were rule makers." Junior Johnson, he said, had a roller cam, not legal, but he figured out a way to put a ball on the bottom of a flat tappet and turn it into a roller cam. All of these things were acceptable until I came along. When I came, I said, "Hey, can't do that anymore." Waltrip's argument was that he and the other teams were not violating the spirit of the rules, they were finding the gaps the rules had not yet closed, and by getting caught, they were closing those gaps for everyone. What NASCAR never banned after 1976 was the underlying question. If 3 of the 4 fastest qualifiers at the Daytona 500 were running illegal equipment, how many of the other 39 cars were clean? The fines were $1,000 each. Both teams competed in the race. The nitrous oxide rule was clarified and tightened, and the one driver who sandbagged to get the others caught has never publicly said who he was. Put me in the category where I belong. Waltrip knew exactly which category that was. That line became the most quoted thing Darrell Waltrip ever said. More quoted than any of his victories. More quoted than anything from his broadcast career. A confession delivered with such precision that it turned getting caught into a philosophical statement. But here is the part that got buried under that quote.
3 of the 4 fastest qualifiers at the Daytona 500 were running illegal equipment. Not one rogue team, not one bad actor. 3 of them, simultaneously, at the most scrutinized race on the NASCAR calendar, in front of the largest crowd of the season, with Bill France Sr. watching. Which means the question nobody asked in February of 1976 is the same question nobody has fully answered since. If the 3 fastest were cheating, what were the other 39 doing? One driver admitted he sandbagged his qualifying lap on purpose, ran slower than he could have gone, specifically so the speed gap would look suspicious enough to trigger an inspection. That driver never publicly said who he was. The Wikipedia citation goes to a 1976 source that has never been fully identified. Someone in that garage knew, ran slow, waited, and watched 3 of his competitors get thrown out. The fines were $1,000 each, $1,000 at the Daytona 500. Waltrip won more than that in a single race purse. The message NASCAR sent was not "stop cheating." The message was, "do not get caught being this obvious about it." Waltrip said they were rule makers, not rule breakers. The rules they made that week in Daytona Beach were not the rules written in the NASCAR rulebook. They were the ones everyone in that garage already understood.